And as we meet today to talk about whether or not the authorized use of military force needs to be changed, I think the question that we should be asking today is the exact opposite. Are we, as a committee, prepared to preempt the president taking military force completely off the table, but rather we should be considering a new authorized use of military force against Russia in support of the people of Ukraine and other non-NATO countries now threatened by this totalitarian dictatorship? I believe that that is what we should be talking about, and it is my intent not only to sign on to the chairman's resolution, which I understand will be on the floor today or tomorrow, just talking about exactly that, the terrible atrocities by this president, not this our president, but by Putin. So let me ask one question, which is for our witnesses. Does the president have the authority to engage against Russian forces that are targeting civilians in Ukraine today?
Congressman, the president has no intention of U.S. forces being engaged with Russia forces inside Ukraine.
I appreciate that. He said it very well before all of us last night. I asked a different question. Does the president have the authority?
I would defer to counsel on that, either to Mr. Visick or to Ms. Kress.
One of you please answer. Does the president have authority to provide overhead support, including help the Ukrainians target Russian troops or Russian aircraft that are attacking civilians, unarmed civilians in Ukraine as we speak?
President's authority to use force without approval of Congress is found in Article 2 of the Constitution. It would be an incredibly fact-specific inquiry. Obviously, one of those, he has the authority under Article 2 where it would not lead to war, and obviously we would have to take into account escalatory risks. But I would defer to my colleague, Ms. Kress.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. The approach that the executive branch has taken over multiple administrations is to evaluate whether there's a national interest that's sufficient to taking force, but then that the president may not authorize under his Article 2 power the use of force that is of sufficient nature, scope, and duration to qualify as a use of war.
Well, I appreciate that. So what I'm hearing is that since Jefferson first went after the Barbary pirates, we have had an argument about what the authorities of the president are. We tried Milosevic for 6 years, a decade after he began murdering people in Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia. Many of the things that Putin is doing today mimic the kind of targeting of civilians that occurred during that time. During those years, didn't we, in fact, engage in support of with NATO of a non-NATO country in order to prevent the loss of human life? I'll take that as a yes. So the question is, if there is some ambiguity as we speak as to the president's authority to engage to stop the wanted destruction of human beings and of non-military assets in this unlawful war initiated by Vladimir Putin, would a AUMF be helpful so that the president would have explicit authority should he need or change his mind and decide to use it?
I think the subject of today's discussion is an AUMF to deal with terrorist threat to Americans and the ongoing.
No, I understand that. I understand that, but to be honest, we only get this kind of technical expertise and people dying in the streets of Kiev very infrequently. So the question is, would that authority be supplemental to the constitutional ambiguity that you all expressed just a moment ago?
I think I would defer to the lawyers, but I would suspect Mr. Issa, Congressman Issa, that we would need to look at exactly what you are discussing and what you are proposing. As both Mr. Visick and Ms. Krass said, this is a very fact-based determination, and we would need the specifics. Thank you.
Gentleman's time has
Thank you, Mr.
expired.
Chairman. Yield back.
I now recognize Representative